You're watching live coverage from RJD News. Thank you for contributions from viewers like you.
Good evening, I'm Peter Alexander in tonight for Jose, and we begin with a shooting spree near Odessa, Texas. 5 people are dead, 21 injured following a traffic stop. Our other big story tonight, Hurricane Dorian. It keeps strengthening, now an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm, 500 miles across, packing 150-mile-an-hour winds. President, one of his most trusted employees, is out of a job after comments that she made about the first family got back to him. He defended her at first, but now making a stab on social media about the consequences of spilling more secrets. President Trump's trade war with China will hit home for many Americans in the days and weeks to come. That's because new tariffs go into effect overnight on the products you use every day, everything from food to school supplies.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of RJD News, and we begin with breaking news this afternoon. At the dawn of another mass shooting in Texas, which authorities do believe that it was gang related, which left 7 dead and 21 people injured, mostly civilians. It was on a highway. We have more from NBC News.
According to police, it started with a traffic stop. The state trooper pulled over a motorist for unknown reasons. The gunman opens fire on the officer, takes off, and then starts firing randomly at people on the highway. At some point, he ditches his car and hijacks a mail van, a postal van, and continues his rampage. Throughout the afternoon, there are reports of 2 gunmen, 3 gunmen, several cars involved. It all turns out to be just one suspect who's cornered near a movie theater. There's a gun battle, and the police essentially kill him right there. Here's what the authorities had to say about the casualties.
This subject was contacted by law enforcement, and an exchange of gunfire happened, and that subject is deceased at that location. We have law enforcement injured. We have the DPS trooper in Midland County. We have 1 MPD officer and 1 OPD officer that were struck. As far as civilian casualties, we have at least 21 victims, 21 shooting victims, and at least 5 deceased at this point in time.
Florida and the Carolinas and other southeast coastal areas are bracing for a direct impact from Hurricane Dorian. We have more on this from NBC News.
Tonight, a dramatic shift in the forecast. Hurricane Dorian now expected to just scrape Florida's Atlantic coast.
Looks like a monster to me.
Today, from gas to groceries, a run on supplies as the storm intensified. In Stuart, Florida, anxiety measured in sandbags. Just ask Jennifer Cross.
How worried are you that it's still going to flood?
I'm still worried.
Despite the unpredictable forecast, many of the people waiting in this line say they were expecting a lot of rain. And since many of them live in low-lying areas, they're not taking any chances. The Florida Keys, Miami, and Fort Lauderdale are now out of the storm's expected path, but authorities warn most of the Sunshine State remains in the dreaded cone of uncertainty.
Don't make any assumptions, remain vigilant, and be prepared.
The White House says FEMA is briefing the president every hour. Florida Power and Light is pre-positioning 18,000 workers, bracing for extensive outages.
Even if Florida doesn't take a direct impact, we're expecting impacts like significant storm surge and potential flooding.
Cruises out of Port Canaveral canceled starting tomorrow. Many airlines are waiving change fees, as property owners like Dick Jones hope for the best.
Just in case it turns the other way, you got to be ready.
After indiscreet talk about the Trump family by a once trusted Oval Office gatekeeper, Madeleine Westerhout.
She said she was drinking a little bit, and she was with reporters.
Today, the president delivered a warning to keep quiet, wrapped in friendly tones. While Madeleine Westerhout has a fully enforceable confidentiality agreement, she is a very good person, and I don't think there would ever be reason to use it. Westerhout had been greeter, guardian of secrets, and executive assistant, a government employee earning $145,000 a year.
Mentioned a couple of things about my children.
Had a bad night. I fully understood and forgave her, he wrote. And Mr. Trump chose to defend daughter Tiffany publicly.
Tiffany is great. I love Tiffany.
Westerhout, who had often posted about her White House experiences, today no longer an insider, tweeted appreciation from a private account.
At the Ride Brooklyn bike store, where most of the bikes and bike parts he sells are made in China, owner Peter Kocher says he's already feeling the effects of Trump's trade war with China.
It's absolutely coming out of the pockets of everyday consumers and small business owners like us.
This new round of tariffs is expected to hit U.S. consumers especially hard. According to one estimate, the cost for the average American household, $1,000 a year. It's a 15% import tariff on over $1 billion worth of goods from China. The list 122 pages long of everyday items like food, diapers, and sporting equipment.
Every time one of these things hits, we take a hit and then consumers take a hit. Every single day we're paying for the tariffs.
Americans for Free Trade, a coalition of 150 businesses, urging Trump to postpone the tariffs, saying they could represent one of the largest tax increases in American history.
No, they're on. They're on.
Trump saying on Friday that he's communicating with China.
We're going to win the fight.
But details are scarce, and businesses have been left with uncertainty.
Every day you're wondering where the storm is going to go, where the hurricane is going to hit. How do we plan?
Meantime, China said it will impose even more tariffs on over 5,000 U.S. imports like soybeans, oil, beef, and pork. And they're reducing their reliance on products that come from the United States, a long game that, at least in the short run, is going to cost American consumers.
You're going to need a boat.
When Debbie Stevens' car was being swept away by Arkansas floodwaters, she did the only thing she could. She called 911.
Lord, please help me. Lord, please help me. I don't want to die.
Operator Donna Renault can be heard trying to help.
Don't do that to me, man. I'm going to get somebody out there to you. Just hold on.
But about 10 minutes into the 24-minute call, Renault, who had recently submitted her resignation and was working her last shift, appeared to lose patience.
I'm scared. I've never had anything like this happen to me before.
Well, this will teach you next time. Don't drive in the water.
Couldn't see it, ma'am. I'm sorry, or I wouldn't.
I don't see how you didn't see it. You had to go right over it.
9 minutes later, telling Stevens,
Miss Debbie, you're going to have to shut up, okay? I need you to listen to me.
Renault did not respond to NBC's request for comment. Fort Smith police say the call, while concerning, was not criminal.
It's a tragic thing. I understand that. Are there things that we need to maybe look at in our response? Absolutely.
They need to get their boat out here quick. She's way back there.
It took officers nearly an hour to reach her. Stevens was driving her newspaper delivery route, her SUV hidden in the dark behind a row of trees.
See where that light's reflecting? Yeah. That's where she's at.
By the time they pulled her out, the 47-year-old could not be revived. Her tragic final calls for help now under investigation by Fort Smith police, taking a hard look at their own response.